What's going on, everyone? Today there's something I wanted to go over. I think you guys will find this useful, no matter what stage you're at in your bodybuilding journey. And of course, when I use the term bodybuilding, I use it generically and pretty much all-encompassing to describe anyone who's using nutrition, weight training, etc. to achieve both a performance and or aesthetic goal. Now, I think oftentimes people have a lot of questions surrounding what does a cutting diet look like? Literally, what does it look like? It's very easy to attach numbers to things and say, well, you know, for someone your size, you should be consuming X number of calories. That's pretty vague. You say, okay, well, within those number of calories, how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, how many grams of carbs? But even if I were to, or someone else were to enumerate the number of grams of each macronutrient, it still kind of leaves you wondering, what does that look like in totality, right? Weighed out in different portions of food. I thought I would show you a full day of eating. Now, I just wrapped it up a couple weeks ago, but I spent a good 10, 12 weeks getting in shape. I lost about 30 pounds and I wanted to get myself to the point where, you know, if I went to the beach, went to the pool, it's summertime, wanted to look respectable. And I'm in no means in contest condition, but in a, you know, a point where I feel pretty good about the way I look. So, I mean, if I, you know, I've got some abs and, you know, nothing hanging over my belt. So that's all I wanted to do, right? Clean things up a bit, get to a point where I feel good about taking off my shirt. So I thought I would show you what a day of eating looks like for me. I also train a lot of clients, and a lot of times I feel like I get some pushback when people are like, that's it? That's the amount of food? This is not enough, I'm starving. Shouldn't I be eating more? Because I think it's very common for people to, you know, read online. Again, people throw around these numbers, the amount of calories, eating 6 meals a day, so on and so forth. And quite frankly, I think a lot of times people over-consume. Now, that's my opinion. That's me speaking from my perspective. In all fairness, right? Everybody has a different caloric requirement, metabolic requirement. And a lot of that hinges on what your daily activities look like, okay? Maybe, you know, if you're a blue collar worker, and you're doing manual labor all day, you're gonna need a lot more calories than someone like myself, because even though I may weight train for an hour and, you know, get on the treadmill and do some cardio, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not that active in the course of a day. A lot of times I'm behind a computer, I'm sitting at a desk, so I don't move a whole heck of a lot. I don't feel that I have a massive calorie requirement, even at 260 pounds. Well, I'm gonna let you decide, because I'm gonna show you exactly what a day of eating consists of. And I guess you could make a decision as to whether that's more than you thought it would be or less than you thought it would be. So let's start with meal one. I have 5 ounces of ground turkey breast, which is pretty lean. It's not my favorite thing to eat. All right, it's about 99% lean. And to kind of make it doable, I'll put a couple whole eggs on top of it, upon which I'll put some hot sauce. All right, so, and I've got my cheat sheet here. Okay, I wrote down the macros and the calorie breakdown for each meal. So for that meal, meal one, 5 ounces of turkey breast, 2 whole eggs, some hot sauce, you're looking at 337 calories, 53 grams of protein, 12 grams of fat, and no real significant carbohydrates to speak of. So that's a pretty bare bones meal. Now for me, that's not a problem because I'm waking up really early. I eat that at about 5 a.m. I'm not gonna eat a ton of food. That's meal number one. Now, meals 2, 3, and 4 are the same base meal. 7 ounces of plain grilled chicken and about 1.5 cups of boiled veggies. I have cauliflower and broccoli. Is kind of like my go-to meal. And then to kind of manipulate the fat and carbohydrate intake for the day, I'll add to those meals. So in meal number 2, it's that 7 ounces of grilled chicken, 1.5 cups of plain veggies, and a pear. okay? That's it. I think the pear is gonna add like maybe 20 grams of carbs. So for that meal, you're looking at 428 calories, 22 grams of carbs, 67 grams of protein, and 5 grams of fat. Meal number 3, the same 7 ounces of chicken, cup and a half of veggies, and I've got 1/4 cup of pecans. For no other good reason than I just like pecans. Could be almonds, it could be cashews, doesn't really matter. Meal number 4, 7 ounces of grilled chicken, a cup and a half of veggies, 3 rice cakes. So for that meal, I'm looking at 580 calories, 60 grams of carbs, 67 grams of protein, and 5 grams of fat. And my last meal of the day is 7 grams of ground 99% lean turkey breast, about 6 ounces of white rice. I've got about cup and a half of cucumbers and tomatoes, and I add a teaspoon of olive oil and some vinegar to it, just plain old white distilled vinegar. Point to note, when you guys are pre-contest, okay, and you're measuring things, when somebody says a teaspoon, they mean a literal teaspoon, meaning something that has been calibrated to deliver 5 milliliters, right, of fluid. It's anybody's guess what this holds. Is it a tablespoon? Is it a teaspoon? Is it something in between? Who knows? But if you're measuring things with this and not something that is actually calibrated, you could be setting yourself up for some mistakes. So whether anything you're measuring, right? Use a scale, use a proper measuring spoon, use measuring cups, and all of my weights are cooked or prepared, right? I'm not measuring things raw. So for my final meal of the day, I'm looking at 551 calories, 48 grams of carbs, 65 grams of protein, and 9 grams of fat. Kind of the recurring theme is each meal, looking at somewhere in the 60s, mid 60s for protein. Carbohydrates could be anywhere from 0 to maybe 60 grams. Fats could be anything from almost nothing or a few grams to, I don't know, probably my highest fat meal is 25 grams, the one with the pecans. So not a ton of fat. In total, I'm looking at 2,400 calories for the day, all right? 130 grams of carbs, 319 grams of protein, and 56 grams of fat. And if you notice, right, protein is the highest, but if you add up the calories from fats and carbs combined, in total, they pretty much match my protein intake. That's not by any clever design, but if you guys have been following me for a while, you will remember that a lot of times when I'm in an off season or I'm kind of starting from scratch, I'll do a 1-to-1-to-1 calorie ratio, meaning I'll get the same amount of calories from each macronutrient. So if I was eating, 300, I start with my body weight. Okay, so let me back up. To arrive at those numbers, I start with my body weight. So if I'm 250 pounds, I'll multiply that times 1.5. That'll give me my protein figure. So let's just say that number is, 300. Then I will shoot for 300 grams of carbohydrates also, which would deliver 1,200 calories. I'll divide that by 9, and that would give me the amount of fat that I would take in for the day. So if I'm consuming, say, 300 grams of protein, 300 grams of carbs, it's probably gonna mean that I would take in, 140 or something grams of fat. So it would give me the same amount of calories from each macronutrient. When I'm dieting, okay, what ends up happening is that protein value stays high, and then carbohydrates plus fat end up equaling my protein, calories from protein. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just saying what I do. How valuable is it for me to say, hey, this is what I do on a daily basis? It's not all that applicable because in reality, like I said earlier, everyone's an individual. Your requirements are gonna vary. Yes, I'm 255, anywhere from 250 to 260 pounds, but my activity level is pretty modest. My training intensity might be different than yours, but I think a lot of times, kind of to go back to the impetus for making this video, I think a lot of times people overshoot what they think they need to consume because a lot of bigger guys, and I'm not as big as I used to be. Nothing lasts forever. But even when I was competing and, Dennis Wolf was divulging what he was consuming for the day, or Branch Warren was detailing his daily diet, you didn't see these massive, massive calorie intakes. And these are big guys. These are heavily muscled guys. And, I think a lot of times people think, oh, I need to eat all this food, I need 6 meals. There's times I go and I'm only eating 4 meals a day. So I think you really need to pay attention to your composition, take notes on how you look. The scale is a valuable tool insofar as it can let you know which direction you're going. The number itself isn't, of course, all that valuable. But when I'm dieting, the overall trend, it's important for me to know that the weight is coming down. It doesn't have to drop. It doesn't have to plummet. And if all of a sudden the weight on the scale dropped by 20 pounds, that doesn't guarantee that I'm in shape, because it may mean that I didn't do it properly. But overall, I do need to see that it's trending down, because unless I'm defying physics, or I'm someone who's highly untrained and I went through a period where I didn't train at all and just ate like a disgusting human being, chances are I'm not at this point going to gain muscle and lose fat simultaneously. So the best that I would hope for in a scenario when I go to diet is to hang on to as much muscle as possible while losing as much fat as possible. So that would therefore mean that number on the scale is going to come down incrementally. So I hope you guys find this helpful. If I could give you any advice when it comes to dieting, try to get some variety in your diet. And I'm probably not a great example of that. I do try to, I get one piece of fruit, I get some nuts, get some veggies in there. I try to have some veggies with at least, 3 or 4 meals a day, get some good fats in there. But the reality is when you're dieting, because the volume is decreased and because you're being restrictive, a lot of times micronutrient intake, your vitamins and mineral intake is going to suffer a little bit. Unless, hey, you're eating a plethora of veggies with every meal, plenty of leafy greens and all that, and that's wonderful. If you can do that, good for you. That's not most people. A lot of people, myself included, I'm gonna lean on a multivitamin. Pack, of course, is my go-to for over 20 years now, just to cover the bases, right? It's just kind of a good insurance policy to make sure I'm not deficient in any one micronutrient, any vitamin or mineral. Very, very important just to make sure you're functioning optimally. I'm gonna post all these figures below for you to look at. Again, the calories, proteins, carbs, fats, and hope you find this helpful. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Thank you for watching.